Yo, 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 what's up, all you burner stoners and potheads? This is Weedman 420 with the Weedman 420 Chronicles. How are all you vipers doing out there? Mrs. Weedman.
Mr. Weedman.
How the hell are you?
Hot flashy.
Hey, all you vipers out there in the world. Hopefully you're smoking some big fat doinks while you're listening to the show. Mrs. Weedman and I are about to get normal, and we are smoking a new strain that was given to us by our friends at Redemption Botanicals called Grape Cream Cake. And this is an indica dominant strain. Grape Cream Cake is an indica dominant hybrid strain, 70-30, created through crossing the delicious grape pie and wedding crasher strains. Famous for its delicious flavors and soothing happy high, Grape Cream Cake is the perfect choice for any fan of tasty nighttime indica strains. This bud has a super sweet and creamy cherry berry taste with hints of sugary nuttiness and vanilla. Ooh. The aroma is just delightful, almost like a freshly baked vanilla cake topped with fruity berries and spicy grapes. The Grape Cream Cake high will settle in a few moments after you finally exhale, filling your mind with warming, expansive, tingly that boosts your happiness levels and leaves you feeling a bit out of touch with reality. Oh, I like it already. This tingle will soon work its way into your entire body, relaxing your limbs and allowing you to really kick back and stretch out. A sleepy sense comes next, leaving you dozing off before you know it. Uh-oh, we got to last 2 hours, Mrs. Weedman. Combined with its high level, this one was 25.2 something percent. TH level, these effects make Grape Cream Cake a great choice for treating conditions such as chronic pain, chronic stress, or anxiety, depression, and insomnia. This bud has peppery-shaped bright neon green nugs with thin orange hairs and tiny purple tinted white crystal trichomes. The effects are body high, calming, happy, relaxing, sleepy, uplifting. The relief symptoms are anxiety, chronic pain, depression, insomnia, and stress. The flavors are cherry, fruity, grape, nutty, sugary, sweet, and vanilla. And the aromas are creamy, grape, nutty, sugary, sweet, and vanilla. And I'd like to thank my friends over at Redemption Botanicals, my friend Chad Wolf and Bo. Appreciate you guys because we saw you guys last night or yesterday during the day. We were at the Flower Expo, which we'll talk about in a minute.
It's nice, smooth. It's good.
They are the hottest right now craft grow in Chicago and Illinois. Oh yeah, they're making a mark and much deserved. I mean, I've been to their facility when they were in construction. I got to see their facility while they were in construction. And Marshall, one of the owners, is a phenomenal grower, phenomenal guy. He comes from the Colorado cannabis scene for a very long time. He knows what he's doing. Bo, his head salesman, knows what he's doing. Also, Bo gave us their new live resin cart, which I tried yesterday at Flower Expo, which was phenomenal. And they also gave us some live resin too, some hash resin, I think, which I'm looking forward to trying also. So I can thank my buddy Chad, who I've known for a very long time. Thank you, Mr. Wolf. I appreciate you always hooking to the cause. I love it. So we appreciate it. And we're going to enjoy this joint and tell you a little bit about Brunch of Stoners is coming up. But let me take one more hit, everybody.
Pretty tasty.
Oh, you need to find this. And this was a pre-roll. So, and they gave us an eighth to try. So I'm looking forward to trying that on another show or two. So, but before we get started, let's talk about Brunch of Stoners. We will be there at the official Chicago's unofficial 420 pre-party on April 6th from 11 to 3 p.m. in the Pilsen neighborhood. There's going to be multiple food stations, consumption stations, and so many activities. Craft brands, large brands, independent dispensaries, and local artisans will be there. VIP tickets are available, and then use the promo code, all caps, WM420. Once again, all caps, WM420 for $20 off each ticket. Come see us because Mrs. Weedman and I will be rolling doinks for everybody, and Mrs. Weedman is going to have all of her great 8 Decades brands there. So make sure you check out also 8decades.com. and see all the goods that Mrs. Weedman carries. And but also, Mrs. Weedman at this event will be able to sell.
Yes.
Yay! We're able to sell.
Yeah, you can grab and go.
Yeah.
And I think I'm going to have all the clothing with me as well. I think we're going to have the space for that this time.
Yes.
So I'll have all of it.
Yeah, so save some cash.
Yeah. We
do take everything, so come check us out and check out Brunch of Stoners on April 6th, everybody. Don't forget, all caps, promo code WM420. We had a great Tuesday. It is Wednesday, so I want to tell everybody once again, Mr. Weedman had to record on a Wednesday. And I said on the last episode, I hate missing Tuesdays, but this was something special, right? We went to Flower Expo, and I first like to thank Kai Brady, one of the folks that run Flower Expo, who gave us media passes, and also all the staff there did a phenomenal job. I heard there was a very long line before we got there. We got there around 4 o'clock, and I heard there was like an hour wait to get in. I heard it was jammed. So, but when we showed up, there was only 10 people online.
Yeah, it's kind of nice.
It was kind of nice. So, but I want to talk about our experience. Let's talk about how we walked up. So when we were walking in to, we parked about a block and a half away because someone told us there was no parking. So we walked about a block and a half, and we saw a friend of ours who we've seen at many events, Moonrock Matt, and he pulled out a joint and lighted it up, and we were smoking with him along the way. It was great. So thanks, Moonrock Matt, for hooking us up to the cause and letting us get a little stony baloney before we walked in. So then we get there. And we're just getting our media pass out and stuff like that to go through the door. And all of a sudden, there is somebody checking bags. And I heard from somebody, oh, you can't bring weed in here. I'm like,
and I was watching him basically empty out the girl in front of me, her bag. He was not just doing like a look through. He was
he went
pilfering, and he was taking out, oh, pre-roll, you can't have that. Oh, you can't have that. Oh, like she had all of her stash. And she wasn't going to get it back.
Right, unless you brought it back to the car. He was going to let you go to the car.
Yeah, you could go to your car and get rid of it, but you were not bringing it in.
Right. So while we were waiting in line to go away, hold on, this one guy comes up to me and goes, hey, I'll take all your weed. I said, dude, I ain't giving you my fucking weed. I said, I'll go back to my car and put it there before I give my, I mean, I had a lot. We had a lot. Well, we bought 35 Kush Mellows that you had just made fresh, right? I also had a bunch of joints that I rolled. And I had another bag of edibles, I think, somewhere in my bag. And I'm like, and a pen somewhere in my bag. I'm like, I am not, dude. I looked at this guy. I'm like, who are you?
Right.
You know, do you need an edible to eat? I'll give you an edible, but I'm not giving you all my weed. And he just looked at me and like smirked and walked away, like thinking, hey, you ain't going to get away with this, you know?
Yeah.
But Mr. Weedman, I'm called Weedman 420 for a reason, okay? Because I always have weed on me. I don't smoke more than anybody else. I've never claimed to be be able to smoke more than more people and be able to fucking out dab people. That's not Mr. Weedman. That's not Weedman 420. Weedman 420 was created because someone said to me a long time ago, he called me Weedman because I always have weed on me. I'm never without weed. And I always give weed away, right? I'm never shy with giving weed to people. You know, edibles, a joint, a nug. I give a lot of weed away in my lifetime. I do, and but I enjoy it. So we're so this guy's like he like looked at me with a smirk, like, yeah, you ain't getting in with all you got. You just give it to me, kind of. And I just like looked at him and I said, yo, dude, I ain't giving you my weed because you don't know who the fuck I am, right? So we walk up, right? We're about 3-4 people waiting in line, and I know you right now. Your anxiety, like you like basically said to me, like, what are you gonna do? I'm like, don't you worry about it. I'm the weed man. So I happened to see a friend of mine who had a booth inside. I'm not going to mention the company's name. I'm not going to mention the person's name. And this person came up and started talking to me. He's like, hey, just come by the table when you're ready, man. We got some goodies for you. I'm like, sweet, but I'll be in there in a minute. I said, but hey, can you do me a solid real quick? I said, I got a lot of fucking edibles in my bag right now that I'm not willing to give up. And I have a bunch of joints in my bag that I'm not willing to give up because I was bringing them for people I know to hand out and just bring the party. And he's like, oh, just give me your backpack. I got a pass. They're not going to stop me. I'm right. Here's the way to get in. I'm going to walk right in. They're not even going to stop me. I said, all right, take my bag. I'll just meet you right over there.
So I can't hear you and him talking, but I know what is happening. And I'm watching this girl's bag get cleared out. And I'm like side-eye watching the two of you. And then what do I see? He's walking away like do with your backpack on his shoulder. I'm like, you fucking you only you. And he's just walking and strolling in with the backpack that he didn't have. And he's got like a stark white, crisp dress shirt
dress shirt and slacks and dress shoes.
Yeah. And he's got a backpack on his back all of a sudden.
A Reveille no scent backpack. They're amazing, by the way.
I was like, oh. Only you.
So you get your bag checked. Mm-hmm. I show my media pass. You didn't have your badge yet. You didn't have your pass.
No, I didn't even get my bag checked.
I walked right up to the girl and I said, hey, listen, I want to thank Kai Brady, especially for getting us tickets, but you didn't get yours through Eventbrite. I did. So I walked up to the girl. I said, hey, Kai sent us media passes. My Mrs. Weedman didn't get hers. Do you mind? She's like, yeah, no problem. Here's a media pass. Just fill this out. And we were right in. And there's my homie, with my backpack.
Yeah.
And he's just strolling around, like just actually kind of like doing a dance, like boop, boop, boop. You know, I'm like, yo, homie, I appreciate you. Here's an edible for you. And he didn't need it, but he was just smiling because he knew what we did.
And however the two, as confidently as you both were, apparently, the security seemed to think that you were high enough authorities that I didn't need my bag checked either. Because I just like, I didn't even like, they didn't even check my bag. You guys both looked at me like, yo, like you belong inside.
Right.
We don't need this bag check shit. Get in there.
It was so
like,
good.
Okay.
It was so good.
And I just kind of walked awkwardly, but I was the next person. Like they didn't even stop me. Somehow they thought that you guys were like authority. I was like, God. Clowns.
So, Mr. Weedman 420, puffing away, flew into the fucking event, Flower Expo, with a bunch of fucking Cushmallows and a bunch of joints, and every person who I knew got a Cushmallow, right? And I wish I had more. I could have probably bought 100 and probably gave 100 away. Because when people saw this,
they were gone within an hour.
I mean, some people were like, "Oh, I'm going to save this for at home," but there was
some people just like
and they're 25 milligrams.
You said, yeah, you're like
just putting
25. Oh, okay.
Just right in their mouth, like it was
Chomp.
nothing,
Yeah.
and just looking at me and you, going,
like they're really 25,
but
not anything less.
People were looking at you and I when they put that thing in their mouth, going,
oh, the flavor. Yeah.
They were fucking like people were coming up to me.
A couple people like bit into it.
Oh,
and
just like were heavenly. I mean, people like were texting me today, going, "Where'd you get those?" I'm like, "I told you, Mrs. Weedman makes those." They're like, "Can we how do we get more of these?" Like that, basically what people were telling me. Like, how do we get more of these? These things are fucking amazing. So it was great. So the start off of Flower Expo was great. And just that story alone to me was priceless. If I would never even gotten in, just to know that I snuck in that much weed and not getting caught. And I'm sure there's other people that did the same thing because I'm used to sneaking in weed. I mean, I put it in my boots. I put it in my pants. I mean, I can hide weed. You know, I wear baggy enough clothes too to where, I mean, I know what I'm doing. I mean, I also have a bandolera too that I put joints in there and I can always hide that under a fucking sweatshirt. No one will ever know. So I have my ways of getting weed past security. So we got in. As soon as we walked in, there was the outdoor smoking section, right? Because you couldn't smoke flower inside, but you can dab and you can do, they had plenty of people doing carts in there, vapes and stuff like that, and doing the what is the flippy thing called? I always forget the
student glass.
Student glass. Yeah. Thank you.
Which that's not technically vape. That's smoke.
It's coming
Same
through
with
water,
bongs.
right? But it's coming through water, so it's vape.
It's not as
not as potent,
dirty and messy.
Right. So we get inside to the smoking area, which was the big courtyard. And we saw like 30 people we knew right when we walked in. I was talking to people right away saying hi. I took out my backpack and I busted out edibles and just started handing edibles to people. I probably handed out like 10 edibles in the first like 15 minutes of being in the place. And people were like, "What's this?" I'm like, "Mr. Weedman's new recipe. Hell yeah, you got to try this." And then we walked in. So we saw a bunch of people we knew. You had OCB, who sponsors our table a lot at a lot of events we do. They had their rolling station out front, and got to see Kevin. He threw me some wraps. Thank you, Kevin. Appreciate you. And then we walked in and we saw a bunch of buyers from a bunch of dispensaries I knew and a bunch of bud tenders we knew and people we've met at events we've done right when we walked in. So right when you walked in, you go to the left and there was a fun game to play by Breeze. Was it Breeze who sponsored it too? Yeah, so you can throw like the rings and you would win something. And then they had a DJ and then they had a bar where they were selling no alcohol, but like mocktails and water and stuff like that. And then all of the vendors were in I guess that would be the east side of the building, right? Yeah, the east side of the building. And then you want to explain the vendors and stuff like that, or you want me to keep on going?
Well, it's a business-to-business event.
Yes.
So dispensaries are there, and some brands were there. And dispensaries were I think there were just two big MSO brands that were there as dispensaries. Most of everything else was
all brands, yeah.
And so it was just a typical layout of a convention. Everybody had their 6, 8, or 10-foot booth, and they were set up. But it was business to business, so it was a lot of familiar faces. It was a lot of the buyers from dispensaries. It was a lot of dispensaries had staff present there, or the ownership of dispensaries that were there, just networking with the different brands. And it was kind of cool because it wasn't in just a convention hall or a big hotel, conference room. It was in like more of like a wedding, small event venue, like
Yep.
probably like a 500 capacity, if that, space. So it was tight. That was a complaint by some people that it was tight, but maybe they didn't anticipate the amount of activity and
Right.
show up that there was.
I mean, a lot of people in the industry were there.
I think it was just that there was a time where there were a lot more people there at one time.
Right.
And then by the time we got there, the like morning crowd had kind of dispersed, and then it was shifting into like more of the evening crowd.
Right.
I don't know. It was just really cool. It was well planned. It was organized.
Yeah, there was a lot of cool brands there.
There was great brands.
Yeah,
They
we
had
got
great
we
displays
got a lot of
and-
stuff from people. If you could see on, if
Yeah.
you're not watching on YouTube, which sign up for our YouTube, subscribe for our YouTube, by the way. But there's a lot of brands on this table in front of us here. But we'll mention a few: Redemption Botanicals, Wake and Vape, Wake and Puff, same company, Ozone. Who else is on that table, hun? Right there.
All sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, this was a good one.
We saw Jason from Illinois News Joint.
Culinary Canna Company. So
Oh,
they
yeah.
had
You had some waffles.
They had cake mixes and
Yeah.
waffles that are infused. Really good.
We had
Doxy.
what else? Doxy Brands was
We
there.
have Victoria.
Dickens brand was there. Victoria from Wake and Puff, Wake and Vape. Rove. We met the owner of Rove, Joe, I think her name was, and then their whole crew were there. They gave us a couple of carts. Thank you so much.
Split Society
with
with
Galaxy
Galaxy.
was there. Yep.
Yep.
With the Legacy guys, I'd like to thank Jordan as always being so super cool for us.
Rello Wraps.
Yes.
We ran into them again.
Yes, Chris, thank you so much. We want to apologize. The last episode we got the name wrong because we were pretty baked and we were calling them Relos. It's actually like
Rello Wraps.
Rello
Yep.
Wraps.
And
Yep.
Chris and Letty.
Letty, thank you.
So we ran
thank
into
you for
them.
yeah. We'll smoke some more of your wraps on an episode or two moving down the line here. So who else? We saw Gron, we saw Wild, we saw Legacy, we saw Verano, we saw our friends from Caviar there, and our guys from Starbuds were there. The whole family at Starbuds was there. It was great to see all of them. I love those guys. So Musa and Mo and AJ and Basil and Marty and all those guys were there. So it was great to see them. Just who else? I'm just Gron, Connect.
Legacy.
OGs. Yeah, I mentioned Legacy.
Bloom.
Bloom was there. Yep. God,
There were just so many.
If I miss out on you, I humbly apologize. Like I said, we saw Jason from Illinois News Joint. Him and Michael were there.
OGs.
Yeah, named OGs. There was a lot of new brands too. I haven't met yet and saw, but if I forget, there was the cool booth, the fun booth.
Oh my God, that was so cute.
So there was a booth that had looked like grass on a wall, right?
And
And
a
you
doorbell.
pressed the doorbell, and someone stuck their hand out to give you a vape. We have it somewhere. I don't know the name of the company. So actually, I pressed the bell like 3 times and nothing came out. So I stuck my hand in there and scared the shit out of the person.
she came out and she was like, it was not funny. She was really scared.
I wish I would have had an
You
edible in
startled
my
her.
hand and would have handed it through the hole. That would have been actually funny. I just
Give
didn't think
her
about it.
something instead,
Yes,
yeah.
that would have been funnier. But I scared the shit out of that poor person.
She had no idea who's reaching through and being silly.
Oh my gosh. Like I said, there was a lot. It was a cool show. Shoddy showed up. Our producer came and walked around a little bit with us too. So if I forgot any brands out there, I do apologize. But I appreciate you, all of you there, and getting to talk to all of you and shake hands, kiss babies, and give a lot of hugs. It was a lot of fun to get really extremely high. I ate a lot of edibles and I smoked a lot of doinks and gave out a lot of edibles. So hopefully, if you got one of my edibles, you got a chance to Mrs. Weedman's edibles. You got to try one and tell us what you think about them. We're highly interested. So and I would also like to thank once again Kai Brady from Flower Expo and the whole team there. Emily, I think, was the front door girl. She was the only one working that door,
it
and
was
she
rough.
worked it. So Emily, kudos to you for handling that because you
For
were one person with hundreds of
tolerating that.
people.
Yeah, that was a lot.
So thank you, Flower Expo, for coming to Chicago 2025. We look forward to having you back here in 2026. And we look forward to a banger next year. So thank you, everybody. So who participated and handed out tons of gear and tons of weed and tons of edibles and whatever you handed out. And I know a lot of people were happy and probably gave them enough weed to smoke for a couple of weeks, or months. So depending on the person. Great show. So funny article. What would you, if you died, I want to be cremated. So, but if I had a choice to pick a coffin, Any coffin you want. What kind of coffin would you want? Because the coffins, like every funeral I've ever gone to or wake I've ever gone to, the coffin's I mean, they're all expensive, but none of them are fun that I've been to. They're just looking at them, just like, oh, can you do something better? What kind of coffin would you want to be buried in?
I don't know. Just wood, but not
just wood?
Not, yeah, I think.
You want to be this guy on this article I read?
Yeah.
He got permission to get a custom made fucking coffin.
Okay. So what did he do?
You
told me about this.
He did a Snickers bar.
Yes.
As his coffin. And it was so funny because on there it says, "I'm nuts."
Instead of Snickers,
in the logo. And it said, "I'm nuts." And it had the Snickers bar logo looking and it had the colors of the Snickers bar and it had little nuts all over it and caramel swirls and stuff like that. And he was getting buried in it.
Imagine like showing up to that wake.
That would make me smile.
It would.
Hell yeah. And I'm like, look at that.
You'd want to know the story.
Yes. Yes. So what kind of coffin would you want to be buried in?
I don't know.
Come on. What kind of coffin?
I don't know. Wood.
Yeah, but what kind of logo?
I don't want a logo on
You don't
my
want
coffin.
your like graffiti or just like something cool on it? No, you don't want Snickers?
No.
See, that's why I'm getting cremated.
Well, right.
Yes. So I want my urn though to be a big fat nug.
Oh, of course.
Out of wood. Painted purple and red hairs, and I want it to look like an actual nug, and then you could screw it off, and there's my fucking ashes, just like joint ashes. That's my ashes, and make it look like an ashtray in there, like an ashtray in there. So and have a bud, and then have a big bud, and have my weed gold tooth in the center of it, and then put Weedman 420 on there, and that's it. I don't want, or you could put on the other side boot if you want, but Weedman 420 lives here. Wouldn't that be great?
Yeah.
Sure. For me, it would be. For you, you'd have to look at that all the time. Go, Weedman 420 lives here, or died here. Whatever.
That means you want to live in a basement because that kind of a piece.
That's what you'd put me.
Well, I mean,
how dare you?
I'm not going to put that in my living room.
Why?
What are you going to do with that?
That you put
it's going to be a huge.
No. It doesn't be
bud.
that. No. You just make a nice one.
Just a nice one.
Yeah, a nice one. Yeah, that's all. Then the rest of my ashes I want thrown over the in the ocean somewhere. So just enough.
So I get like an arm.
A tooth, the gold tooth.
The gold tooth and an arm. Can you bag up the rest of it? That's going in the ocean. I just want this.
You ready to get the show started?
Yeah.
Let's do this. Heavy cannabis users will be safer knowing this. Patients all over the world have sung the praises of medical cannabis. Adults undergoing chemotherapy often experience relief from nausea and vomiting thanks to weed. Others have shared that it helps reduce chronic pain, despite anecdotal evidence that the plant has potential to help these and other life-altering conditions. Recent research has stirred up a heavy in cannabis use warning. As legalization and normalization take hold in the U.S., cannabis-focused research has become prominent, gleaning and understanding of how cannabinoids work in the human body. Cannabinoids hold great therapeutic promise for many conditions. Nurse and cannabis educator Mo Smith told Green State, with proper dosing and professional guidance, patients of multiple medications can safely incorporate them into their treatment plans. However, it's not all gravy for cannabis consumers. The new data study indicates that working with a doctor may be imperative to ensuring the efficiency of regular medications. New data shows that the prominent compounds that make weed work might also bioaccumulate. What is cannabinoid bioaccumulation? Bioaccumulation is a term used to describe the building of up toxic compounds in the organic system, like the human body. A study sought to understand how cannabinoids build up and what that meant for people who consume weed. Researchers tested the curry using an analytical method miming how cannabinoids are distributed in the body. They found out that the cannabinoid compounds accidentally bound to the phosphatids instead of the endocannabinoid receptors. This could lead to phosphatidiosis, psoriasis, phosphatidiosis.
Why did you give yourself this article?
Because I wanted to say the word phosphatidiosis. A drug toxic. I'm going to spell it out. Ready? PHOSPHOLIPIDOSIS. Phosphatidiosis.
Yes.
That's how it's pronounced, right? Mm-hmm. Can you pronounce it?
No, I have to see it.
Okay. A drug toxicity disease that can affect the liver, lungs, and kidneys. The results are also show that cannabinoids bind better to the blood than the prescribed non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug, NSAID. This would impact the efficiency of regular medications, make them more or less impactful depending on the compounds at play. The information is very new. Leafwell Chief Medical Officer Dr. June Chin shared with Green State, and is currently unknown whether bioaccumulation of cannabinoids would create negative experiences. She did point to cannabis hyperkinesis syndrome, though, as a potential gut health issue directly related to long-term use. The condition causes severe morning sickness, ongoing nausea, intense stomach pain, repeated vomiting, and decreased appetite, and can lead to weight loss, Dr. Chin said. It's worth noting that these symptoms can vary significantly from person to person, and some people might experience different effects than others. CHAs in particular doesn't affect everyone who uses cannabis long-term, and it can take years to develop in those who do experience it. Hold on. I will talk about that in a second. Cannabinoid bioaccumulation has not been directly correlated to CHS, as medical doctors have little concrete data about either. Most hope that the additional research will uncover a connection if there is one. Until long-term cannabis consumers should be aware of the risks associated with unchecked continued consumption. The possible risk of long-term cannabis use. CHS can happen to long-term stoners, but that is not the only thing to be aware of when it comes to cannabinoid accumulation. The findings in the study support that notion laid forth the previous research. Cannabis may interact with medications, but with one additional layer. There has been caution around consuming cannabis alongside other medications for some time. The study takes it a step further by calling historical use into question. If cannabis bioaccumulates, then long-term consumers looking to go under anesthesia or looking to tirade a new pharmaceutical medicine with the doctor may need to consider bioaccumulation. Cannabinoids can affect medications that heavily bind to proteins in the blood, like Warfarin, some antibiotics, and anti-seizure drugs, by competing with the same protein-binding sites. Smith said, however, drugs that don't rely on these proteins for transport aren't likely to impact much by cannabinoids, so it's only certain ones. Still, Dr. Chin advises the utmost caution for those taking anticoagulants, particularly Warfarin, antipolytic drugs, immunosuppressants, sedatives, anti-anxiety medications, antidepressants, and so many more prescriptions. The extent and severity of these interactions can vary based on factors such as specific cannabinoid dosages and individual patient characteristics, Dr. Chin said. It's crucial for patients to consult with healthcare providers before combining cannabis with prescription medications to ensure an effective treatment. Heavy cannabis use warning. Work with your doctor. Longtime lovers of weed looking to avoid whatever may come with cannabinoid accumulation could take a few preliminary steps before being forced to quit forever due to experiencing something like CHS. Taking regular tolerance breaks can help the body clear out natural cannabinoids. Support the body natural detox system during these breaks to help flush toxins. Do this by staying hydrated, eating food and fuels, and exercising to get the metabolism working like a well-oiled machine. Stoners experiencing brain fog, fatigue, headaches, and nausea may be due for a tea break. The study illuminates a need for more research, and cannabinoid bioaccumulation has a toxic impact on the human body. Cannabis consumers and medical doctors should pay attention, especially those regularly taking prescribed medications. What bottom line was learned from this study? Those who feel safe to do so should share cannabis consumption habits and history with the primary care practitioner. Mrs. Weedman, you've told your doctor, right? Mm-hmm. And what did they say, if you don't mind me asking? Or sharing?
I've told some doctors. I have not told all doctors. And I think at my last visit, I did mention it to my main doctor. And he didn't say it. They kind of just say, okay. They don't really know what to say. I say, like, I use CBD during the day. I use THC at night. And they're like, okay.
Okay.
Yeah. I haven't gotten any resistance or any questions about it. You feel like a little bit of a pause in the response, but that's about it.
That's about it?
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah. The whole CHS thing, cannabis hyperkinesis syndrome, we've been talking about this for a few years now. And they still don't know why. They're saying long-term cannabis use, but I don't know if that's 100% true.
No, because I know people who have it, like, from the onset of trying to use cannabis. So I think it's more, in my opinion, it's more of a sensitivity that just some people have.
Too high of a THC level is still my thinking. Cannabis was never that 30-40% doing, multiple dabs when your body's not used to it, or what you're looking for.
Wiper for my glasses.
Oh, I don't know if I have any. I'm sorry.
Jeez.
I will check in a second. But I also feel there might be other things that we're not knowing why this is happening to people. Long-term cannabis use could be one. Higher THC levels that your body's not used to could be another. I also remember reading that when certain pesticides and myotoxins and also could be fungus in the certain funguses in the weed or something like that they got infected, that could be making people sick too, that we haven't looked at yet. There might be reasons of that. Remember, I was talking about neem oil for a long time. If people were using neem oil as a pesticide that was making people sick. So neem oil is not to be ingested at all.
Right.
So there's many reasons why we still don't know why this is happening to people. So I think there's got to definitely be, just to throw it out there, saying it, heavy weed use.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
You know,
they can't just blanket statement.
I've been using weed fucking since I was 13. A lot more as I got older. But I know people that have been smoking weed for fucking every day from the time they wake up, from the time they go to bed, for 30 years.
It doesn't happen to everybody.
Right. So I think more studies need to be done. I think just throwing a blanket, heavy weed use. Come on. I know college kids that have been smoking weed maybe for a year, and they were sick on it.
All of a sudden.
All of a sudden.
When it never made them sick before.
Right.
Right.
So it's interesting. Medical marijuana is a cost-effective therapy for PTSD, as new study shows. Tell us about it, Mrs. Weedman.
Yep. This study indicates that given certain assumptions about the efficacy and cost of medical cannabis for PTSD, it would be worthwhile for health insurance providers to include coverage of marijuana alongside other standard forms of treatment. This article suggests that for the vast majority of types of products, there is pretty solid evidence that medical cannabis is cost effective. Lead author Mitchell Doucette told Marijuana Moment, adding these items to a patient's drug formulary would be advantageous for not only the patient, but because of the lower cost, also for health insurance companies. The study, published in the journal Clinical Drug Investigation, says that products such as edibles, oral solutions, and tablets consistently demonstrated cost effectiveness under a standard model of insurers' willingness to pay. The 5-person research team from Leafwell, a company that helps patients obtain medical cannabis cards, drew on findings from a 2022 study on the efficacy of marijuana for PTSD, as well as prices from Curaleaf, one of the largest multi-state cannabis operators in the country. Our findings suggest that medical cannabis may be a cost-effective adjunct to standard care for patients with moderate PTSD, authors wrote, particularly when payor reimbursement partially or fully offsets treatment costs. So if your insurance covered it, it could be extremely cost-effective. Medical marijuana patients currently pay for cannabis themselves without reimbursement or cost sharing from their medical plans. The study says that given the apparent utility of the substance as a PTSD treatment, medical marijuana is a worthwhile investment for health insurers, even if they cover costs in full. Notably, that finding applies only to non-flower medical cannabis formulations because cured flower was more expensive than edibles, tinctures, or tablets. The analysis only found it to be it's only because of that it was considered a less cost-effective treatment. So this is really focusing on consumables. While additional studies are needed on the efficacy of medical marijuana for PTSD, as well as details such as dosing, product formulations, and potential adverse events, authors wrote that their work highlights the importance of continued research and informed policy decisions to optimize the therapeutic value of medical cannabis in the treatment of PTSD. A Leafwell blog post explains the study's results, saying, overall, these findings suggest that traditional PTSD treatment plus medical cannabis was less costly than traditional treatment alone. While health insurance providers don't currently cover medical cannabis, it adds, they may want to consider it. Doucette, who has a doctorate in health and public policy from Johns Hopkins and works as a senior research director at Leafwell, explained, there are certain limitations to the findings because the team didn't have reliable data on how effective different formulations of cannabis were as a treatment for PTSD and its symptoms. The study assumes various forms are equally effective. This was the lone study that looked at something called utility, or a measure of benefit per unit of cost, he said of the 2022 research that served as the basis for the team's assumptions about effectiveness. That's really the only one that specifically for PTSD measured the utility of treatments when they started and then with a 6-month follow-up. Authors said, to their knowledge, only 3 studies have estimated the cost effectiveness of cannabis-based medical products, and the other studies had to do with chronic pain. As more information becomes available on product formulation and dosing, researchers should be able to better determine which types of cannabis a cost-conscious healthcare company might want to cover, and to what degree. One limitation the authors acknowledged was that our analysis assumes uniform efficacy across different cannabis formulations. In real-world settings, treatment outcomes and tolerability may vary significantly by product consumption, cannabinoid profile, or route of administration. For now, the new study findings suggest policymakers may want to prioritize reimbursement policies that support these cost-effective options, while recognizing the limited cost-effectiveness of dried flower under certain conditions. This study finds the dried flower is likely less cost-effective compared to other medical cannabis products, it says. While medical patients may prefer using dried flower, from an insurance company's perspective, it may not make sense to reimburse for all types of medical cannabis products. Evidence here, combined with the existing body of literature examining the impact of smoke inhalation on lungs, suggests payors may reduce some of the negative harms and promote some of the positive benefits from medical cannabis through strategic reimbursement strategies that are cost-effective, largely safe, and likely effective. The possibility that medical cannabis could substitute for other PTSD medications such as opioids and benzodiazepines also warrants deeper investigation, the study says, as it may yield further health and economic benefits. There is real potential for medication substitution to occur for PTSD patients after starting medical cannabis, it continues. Prior literature suggests that starting medical cannabis and even the presence of medical cannabis laws decreases the prescribing of opioids. More broadly, Doucette said the question, should health plans cover medical marijuana, is about ensuring patients have access to the best medicine for the job. There's been a large influx of research that has pointed in the same casual direction, that medical cannabis has shown to be beneficial for specific conditions or specific symptoms, for example, pain or potentially insomnia, Doucette said. If that's true, which again, a large body of research is showing that it is, the next question is, how do we make it accessible and affordable to ensure that people have equitable access to this type of resource? A study by Leafwell last fall, for example, concluded that state-level medical marijuana legalization appeared to significantly reduce health insurance costs. In states with legal medical cannabis, companies paid 3.4% less for health insurance premiums compared to where marijuana remains illegal, with an average savings of about $238 per employee per year. If all states were to implement medical cannabis programs, that study said, the country could save an estimated $29 billion in health insurance costs annually. In December, meanwhile, Leafwell authors had a scientific review in the journal Medical Cannabis and Cannabinoids, indicating that high CBD, low THC cannabis products have the potential to significantly improve the quality of life for children with autism and epilepsy. It said the cannabis products also showed promising results in reducing key symptoms. of other conditions experienced by young people, including cancer. Other research from authors at DePaul University in Chicago used leaf oil data to examine what conditions qualify minors for state legal medical cannabis programs, concluding that younger people enroll in the programs for many of the same reasons that older adults do, including anxiety, PTSD, and chronic pain. Other common conditions include insomnia and depression. Meanwhile, researchers and policymakers continue to look into the use of cannabis and other psychoactive substances as potential treatment for PTSD and related conditions. Late last year, the FDA approved a landmark clinical trial meant to evaluate the efficacy of smoked medical marijuana to treat PTSD in military veterans. Organizers at the Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies, or MAPS, described Phase 2 of that research as a randomized, placebo-controlled study of 320 veterans suffering from moderate to severe PTSD who have previously used cannabis. Representatives of a number of federal agencies also convened last year to discuss other alternative treatments for PTSD, including psychedelics like MDMA, ketamine, and other drugs. While the officials acknowledged the substance's potential to help treat PTSD and the underlying symptoms, they also emphasized the need for further research to ensure efficacy and patient safety. Veteran advocates in support of expanding access to psychedelic-assisted therapy released an informational guidebook in October that backers said responds to the demand for alternative treatment solutions and equips veterans with practical, clinically backed strategies to safely explore these therapies. The group Heroic Heart Project, which helps connect veterans with psychedelic-assisted therapy in jurisdictions where it's permitted, partnered with author Matt Zeman on the project titled The Veteran's Guide to Psychedelics, a Preparation and Integration Workbook. In an interview with Marijuana Moment last year, meanwhile, Senator John Hickenlooper touted...
Didn't we talk about him before?
I think we did.
You were so stoned. You were...
Hickenlooper. He touted the therapeutic potential of psychedelics. The country's got to move forward, Hickenlooper said. It's funny. We make progress in fits and starts. Not every place is moving forward at the same time. But our attitude toward marijuana and hallucinogens, it's got to continue to evolve. It can't get stuck. So,
don't get stuck.
Don't get stuck.
Don't get stuck.
It will be interesting, though, if they can start prescribing, or like if you can submit your dispensary, like if you are a medical card carrier, and then maybe you have to submit your dispensary receipt to your insurance company and they reimburse you for some portion of it.
That'd be great.
That'd be fantastic.
80-20, right? That's what we pay for, right?
Exactly.
Cannabis use linked to male infertility. Cannabis consumption could have many potential side effects, but infertility is infertility one of them. The question of how weed may impact sperm and male fertility is slowly becoming less elusive. Various studies and analysis. These efforts have not been conclusive, but indicate more is left to be learned. Ask Dr. Leahy on the topic of male fertility in cannabis. Physician Leigh Vincourt cites a pile of studies. A few contradict each other. One Danish study pointed to lower semen in weed-friendly participants. However, in 2019 research paper contradicts the semen quality question. Fertility center data showed that men who had cannabis in their systems had higher sperm counts compared to those who didn't. These findings are preliminary and require further study. Thankfully, there is research available for those interested in the topic. How cannabis might impact sperm. The recently published study hoped to uncover how tetrahydrocannabinol, THC, and CBD impacted human sperm function. In an in vitro investigation, the study exposed how cannabis might inhibit male fertility. Researchers monitored the calcium ion influx of the sperm by analyzing a part of the tail called the cat spur. In sperm, calcium ion influx is vital for sperm to work, which plays a crucial role in getting someone pregnant. Well, yeah, isn't that like you need sperm to get someone pregnant, right?
It helps, yeah. It does.
The cohort included healthy male participants and some who had homogenized deletion of the cat's fear gene. Bless you. Study authors noted that THC and CBD suppress that important calcium ion increases and mess with hormones production. Only sperm of those without homogenized deletion of the cat's fear 2 gene had this reaction. That shows the cat's fear reaction is a mechanism at play, and the hormones responded. Findings indicate that THC and CBD may negatively impact sperm efficiency, with THC having a more detrimental impact. Researchers noted that this was a dose-dependent response. That means that less you consume, and less likely is it to happen. The authors added that the THC impaired sperm hyperactivation and its ability to penetrate. Because of this, they believe THC could be a target of study for non-hormonal contraceptives that target cat's fear. What these cannabis fertility findings means for stoners. While interesting, the study is yet another preliminary look at how cannabis may impact the sperm and male fertility. However, it's just one step closer to the light. Those wondering whether it is worth it to continue with weed should look to a Dr. Leahy for the answer. Since the jury is still out, as a physician, my recommendation is to on the side of caution, Dr. Leahy said in her column. That means have a frank discussion with your doctor, and if you are a man of reproductive age and you and your partner are trying to have a baby, try to cut back and stop using cannabis during that time. Erring on the side of caution is a solid recommendation for anyone unsure about how cannabis may impact their health. Until more research comes out, nobody knows for sure what is happening with sperm after the body absorbs and digests cannabis. However, if THC becomes a potential birth control option, that will be the 2025 bingo card pull nobody was expecting. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I don't have kids anymore. Well, I'm not trying to have kids anymore. I'm not trying to have kids anymore.
Big difference.
Well, I don't have kids anymore. I have adult kids.
Yeah, you have adults.
I have adults. They're adulting somewhat.
They're adulting pretty well.
You always ask about solventless and solvent-based extraction.
Yep.
And I figured I'd give you this article again to help you learn because you're always asking questions. Mm-hmm. So hopefully this article helped out. Tell us about it, Mrs. Weedman. Solventless versus solvent-based extraction.
This weed said it's going to make you sleepy.
Yeah.
And see me yawning?
You yawn.
I'm not tired.
No?
No.
Just the weed is making you tired?
Just the weed's making me yawn. Here we go.
Let's do this.
When any state adopts new recreational cannabis laws, it can feel like a gold rush. As new legal markets open up, new processors seem to initially favor solventless methods of making concentrates, like rosin, hashish, and keef, like panners drawn en masse to gold-bearing streams.
I liked how this writer explained gold mining to this. I thought it was really neat.
The reasons are plain to see for the uninitiated. All three concentrates have very low equipment costs, require little or no training, and avoid the need for expensive, blast-proof rooms. Like panning for gold. It's so simple, anyone can do it. There's also a perception that solventless methods are cleaner than solvent-based extractions. Given their popularity and impending rescheduling, it's worth taking a deeper dive into the benefits and drawbacks of these solventless cannabis extraction systems from the commercial perspective of experienced lab operators in mature recreational cannabis markets. Let's start with the fact that cannabis concentrates are the oldest known manufactured drug on Earth. Hash making predates the fermenting of wine by over 1,000 years.
Cannabis for the win.
And the ancient process was simple. Put cannabis in a burlap bag and beat the bag with a broom until the trichome heads fall out. This time-honored process is still employed today in places like Morocco and Lebanon, with Morocco being famous for strains that make rich, dark-colored hash, and Lebanon known for strains that produce a blonder hash, both with THC potencies around 50%. Water hash methods are commonly used commercially since it's more efficient to run larger batches quickly. Water processes involve using different sized mesh bags to filter out unwanted or lower grade particles. The end result is 3 to 5 different grades of concentrate, with the final filter producing the highest grade, referred to as a full melt hash, and it can be over 60% pure THC. Full melt is highly prized since yields are small. Lower grade hash from the upper mesh bag is typically used in edibles, and any water-soluble flavors and aromas are lost to the water. I find that interesting because hash usually has so much smell to it.
Yep.
But loses something. Industrial chemists classify the first method of beating the burlap bag as agitation and the water method as washing. Even though chemists refer to water as the universal solvent, neither method can be called a true extraction since the separation is purely mechanical. The cannabinoids and terpenes contained within the trichome aren't dissolved and separated from the waxy shell. Any good oil on the surface of the bud gets left behind too. Herein lies the first significant drawback to solventless systems. You only get about half the cannabinoids and terpenes out. Terpenes. Much like the gold miners of yesteryear, who only pulled half the gold out of the rock they worked so hard to mine. Rosin is typically made with a heated press, and keef is made by shaking or beating the cannabis to dry sift it, just like the old Lebanese and Moroccan hashers have for eons, although these days processors typically use dry ice tumblers to improve yields. Rosin makers looking for blonder product will combine these methods, first keefing the biomass and then pressing the keef to make rosin. This process retains more flavorful terpenes that water hash since you're not washing away. This process retains more flavorful terpenes than water hash since you're not washing away water-soluble flavonoids. And potency tends to be around 60%. Rosin and keef also avoid significant mold issues found in the water hash methods. However, yields are meager by comparison, often below 40%, meaning the process wastes up to 60% of the precious cannabinoid oil and terps.
That's a lot.
This defines the biggest problem with these solventless methods: high labor and production costs, long timelines, and net yield lower than 50% of the total cannabinoids and terpenes in the plant. The analogy of gold mining is extremely relevant to cannabis extraction. When industrial companies mine gold, they don't waste precious time and money sifting through tons of river gravel for a few ounces of placer gold anymore. Plus, most reachable placer deposits are depleted worldwide. Instead, large-scale gold mining companies blast out large amounts of rock from the earth referred to as ore. Then they use chemical or solvent processes in huge labs to extract minerals from the rock. Ore veins tend to contain relatively small amounts of gold and other trace minerals next to larger amounts of copper. It's not uncommon for a rich ore vein to have 0.4% gold and 5% copper, but that smaller percentage of gold is worth 800 times copper's value. Both have value, of course, and neither is discarded if a mine is to remain profitable. Marijuana extractors are quite literally in the marijuana mining industry. Our ore is the whole plant biomass. Our copper consists of cannabinoids like THC and CBD, typically making up 60% or less of the crude oil once extracted and de-waxed. The gold in cannabis is the terpenes, since they are worth 15 times more kilo for kilo than cannabinoids, but they make up 10% or less of the crude product. If you discovered your mining process was only recovering half the copper, and worse yet, destroying most or all of the valuable gold, one would think you'd change your methods to fix your mining processes quickly, or you wouldn't be in business very long. This is the challenge all extractors face once markets mature and prices compress across the board. The bottom line, literally, is rosin, keef, and hash only get about half the THC out. Water strips and the heat of rosin presses cook off many of the terpenes, which boil off at around 70 degrees Fahrenheit. In contrast, while ethanol and CO2-based extractions are highly efficient at pulling out over 90% of the THC, they tend to obliterate the terpenes in the process, though, even though it's worth over 15 times what the plant is worth. It should be noted that experienced CO2 operators can do a subcritical terp stripping before extraction, but the efficiency is low Flavors can be degraded, and most don't do this extra step. The painful irony of labs using ethanol and CO2 is that they are often forced to buy terpenes from outside suppliers to make flavorful end products like vape carts. Commercial cannabis processors, much like commercial gold miners, might start with panning only to test and find rich ore veins. To be commercially viable and extract all of the valuable elements from ore bodies, they turn to chemical solvents. And the hard truth is that some chemicals are much more efficient than others. Safely using hydrocarbons at scale requires commercial-grade extractors housed in permitted blast rooms. Just like a commercial gold mine, this equipment is not cheap, and permits do not come easy. But, like those large-scale gold mines, they capture everything more efficiently and are infinitely more profitable than panning in a stream. Perceived safety is often the other reason people go solventless. In terms of product safety, the reality is hash can be a mold-making machine without additional and costly steps. Even keef and rosin are unpurified, which will likely not meet the upcoming GMP requirements once federal rescheduling takes place next year. Only solvent-based extractions meet GMP purity standards by filtering concentrates to 0.3 microns, fine enough filtration to eliminate mycotoxins. In terms of solvent safety, it's worth noting that isobutane has been studied as a propellant in metered dose inhalers to deliver albuterol and steroidal medications into asthma patients' compromised lungs, with results demonstrating its safety. I got tripped up there because for many, many years I used inhalers and was never told the importance of rinsing your mouth after using them. Oh. Yeah. And I, in recent years, have had a lot of dental work, a lot of crowns and, just expensive dental work. And some of it may be a result of inhaler use. Right. So I think that's interesting because if they're saying it's safe enough, then why do you have to wash? Like, if you're going to inhale the butane in a vape, if I have to inhale my inhaler, I'm supposed to go rinse my mouth out. But you're not going to do that when you're vaping. So how safe is it really? To put it simply, while solventless extracts will always be a great choice for boutique extractors or hobbyists making a few grams of personal hash, they will never be able to compete with commercial-scale extractors pumping out 10 liters or 10,000 grams an hour or more. With the anticipated industry consolidation that U.S. federal rescheduling will likely bring, the only labs that stand to survive will be those who mine the full value of cannabis to GMP standards at scale. It is worth adding that it's not about doubling yields or tripling scale in this business. In taste tests, most daily dabbers admit BHO live resin mined from fresh bio has superior flavor too.
We just did a show with Wolfman about BHO rosin and talking to the guys from Redemption Botanicals too. Bo was telling me how long he's been doing it with his resin with BHO and what he does, his process too. So, the other one, the cart that they gave us. So looking forward to trying that. And I do have to admit, the one Wolfman sent me, because my whole thing is I always tasted the BHO because it was never cured right or cleaned out right. So I always taste BHO and I always taste butane. I'm sensitive to it. And Wolfman did a great job explaining why I taste it. When he sent me his card, I didn't taste any. I tasted a lot of flavor. And then I got a rip off of Redemption Botanicals at the show yesterday, and theirs didn't have any.
It was smooth.
I didn't taste any butane.
Nice.
No, it was nice. So
see, you constantly learning.
Yep, constantly.
I think your mind goes to wanting purity and wanting no chemicals because you want something in its purest form, but that pure form leaves the product vulnerable to molds and other things. So not always the best unless you're consuming quickly or who's making it and it's good and clean. So there's just give and take with everything.
Right. And I just didn't
So-
like it because I could always taste it.
Right.
Ugh,
Right.
the worst. That's because of smoking cigarettes for a very long time and not using hemp wicks back then, using just straight up lighters.
You know
Plus
the
all
taste.
the joints I ripped too, Yeah, I just, so sensitive to it. The hemp hoax. 89% of hemp-derived products contain synthetic cannabinoids. Recent laboratory testing reveals that the majority of hemp-derived intoxicating products sold online contain synthetically manufactured cannabinoids rather than naturally occurring compounds, raising serious consumer safety concerns. Synthetic compounds dominate the hemp market. According to comprehensive analysis published in the Journal of Drug and Alcohol Dependence, researchers evaluated 53 commercially available hemp-derived products sold online. The investigation found that 89% of these products contained delta-8 THC and related compounds that were synthetically produced rather than naturally extracted from the hemp plant. The University of Kentucky College of Medicine research team determined that many of the products contained cannabinoids created through artificially conversion process. These synthetically derived compounds are technically legal under the 2018 Farm Bill provisions, but circumvent the spirit of legalization. The overwhelming majority of products marked as hemp-derived actually contain synthetically manufactured cannabinoids, lead researcher Dr. Shana Balonius stated. These findings demonstrate that the consumers are being misled about what they're purchasing and consuming. Safety and regulatory concerns. The study highlights significant concerns regarding product safety and consumers' protection. Unlike cannabis products sold in state-regulated markets, hemp-derived intoxicating products typically undergo minimal quality control testing and face virtually no regulatory oversight. The laboratory analysis detected various synthetic byproducts and contaminants in many samples, including unknown compounds with unknown safety profiles. These undermined substances pose potential health risks to unsuspecting consumers who believe they're purchasing naturally hemp extracts. These products exist in regulatory gray area that allows manufacturers to bypass safety standards while marketing them as natural alternatives, explained Dr. Balbonius. Without proper oversight, consumers have no way to verify what they're ingesting. Look for your QR codes and the COAs that take you right to the COAs, because that's how you know if it's legit or not. So, and make sure it's been double tested or triple tested. Legal ambiguity fuels market growth. The market for hemp-derived cannabinoids has exploded following the passage of the 2018 Farm Bill, which legalized hemp and derivatives containing less than 0.3% delta-9 THC. However, the legislation created loopholes and manufacturers have exploited to produce intoxicating products. They didn't find loopholes. Business developed. Through chemical conversion processes, manufacturers can transform CBD extracted from hemp into delta-8, delta-10, and HHC, and other psychoactive compounds. These artificially created substances technically remain legal under the federal law despite producing effects similar to delta-9 THC, the primary psychoactive component in marijuana. Advocacy groups and health experts are calling for regulatory clarity and enhanced oversight of the hemp-derived cannabinoid market to protect consumers and ensure product safety. Recommendations for consumers. Until comprehensive regulations are established, experts recommend that consumers exercise caution when purchasing hemp-derived products, particularly those advertising intoxicating effects. Consider these guidelines. Purchase products only from reputable companies that provide comprehensive third-party testing results. Look for certificates of analysis and test not only for potency but also for contamination and production methods. Be wary of products making extraordinary claims or offering unusually low prices. Consider regulated cannabis products from state-licensed dispensaries when seeking intoxicating cannabinoids. There's an article we're going to post. It'll be on our, when Mrs. Weedman puts the references and of all the articles we read or research. There's going to be one on there, which is called The Great Hemp Hoax. Take a look at it. It's pretty interesting. It's a PDF file with, I don't know how many pages anymore. I've read probably most of it, like glazed through most of it. And about what I just read in this article, there's a lot more for you to learn. So I would definitely take a look at that article. Marijuana demonstrated positive findings for managing pain in what sport? NCAA athletes. Mm-hmm. This new research says. Tell us about it, Ms. Weedman.
A new presentation reviewing research on student athletes' use of cannabis finds that marijuana has demonstrated positive findings as an alternative for pain management among NCAA athletes. The conference talk by Jacksonville State University's master student Aquaria Mueller drew from published studies into marijuana among athletes and for pain management. Notably, the National Collegiate Athletic Association, or NCAA, last year removed marijuana from its list of substances banned for Division I athletes, emphasizing that cannabis is not a performance-enhancing drug and that it should be treated the same way as alcohol. Evidence indicates that marijuana use among athletes can improve oxygenation of tissues, reduce muscle spasms, and enhance pain management, the new research paper says. For patients with fibromyalgia, marijuana use displayed benefits in alleviating symptoms such as pain and stiffness, while enhancing relaxation and sleep. It further found that marijuana's anti-inflammatory properties also contribute to recovery and post-exercise treatment. Her presentation pointed to the example of Division I basketball player who used marijuana to treat muscle spasms and pain as well as improve sleep. And while Mueller noted the positive apparent benefits of marijuana, she identified a need for further research. The bulk of the studies, she noted, had a lower level of evidence and were less reliable overall. Despite these findings, effectiveness varies among individual athletes. Her report says athletic trainers and healthcare providers should remain informed about evolving policies and evidence to provide tailored, evidence-based care for their athletes and patients, it continues. This knowledge supports developing treatment plans for athletes that incorporate alternative and traditional pain management methods. Last year's NCAA vote to remove marijuana as a banned substance built on a 2022 change that increased the allowable THC threshold for college athletes, a change meant to align NCAA's rules with those of the World Anti-Doping Agency, or WADA. Historically, college athletes have been subject to testing during postseason play. Positive tests could mean an entire season of lost eligibility. The NCAA drug testing program is intended to focus on the integrity of competition, and cannabis products do not provide a competitive advantage, Josh Whitman, chair of NCAA's Division I Council, said last year. The council's focus is on policies centered on student-athlete health and well-being, rather than punishment for cannabis use. When an NCAA committee formally recommending the policy shift in September in September of 2023, it didn't sound right. It said ending the cannabis ban acknowledges the ineffectiveness of the existing policy, affirming their belief that cannabis is not a performance-enhancing drug and promoting the importance of moving toward a harm reduction strategy. Multiple sports organizations have moved to amend their marijuana testing policies for athletes amid the state legalization movement. Late last year, the NFL also reached an agreement with its players' union to further reform its marijuana policies, significantly reducing fines for positive tests while increasing the allowable THC threshold for players. They also committed significant funding to research into whether CBD can serve as an effective opioid alternative. The UFC, or the Ultimate Fighting Championship, announced in late 2023 that it was formally removing marijuana from its newly modified banned substances list for athletes, also building on an earlier reform. However, a California Athletics Commission said they could still face penalties under state rules for testing positive for THC over a certain limit. Nevada sport regulators voted in 2023 to send a proposed regulatory amendment to the governor that would protect athletes from being penalized over using or possessing marijuana in compliance with state law. Last October, regulators officially adopted the rule change. While advocates have welcomed these changes, there has been criticism of the World Anti-Doping Agency over its ongoing cannabis ban. Members of a panel within the agency said in a 2023 opinion piece that marijuana use by athletes violates the quote-unquote spirit of sport, making them unfit role models, whose potential impairment could put others at risk. Advocates strongly urged WADA to enact a reform. As for marijuana and pain, a study earlier this year found that cannabis and its constituent cannabinoids can be useful treatments for various types of chronic pain, in some cases helping to reduce the use of other medications. The paper also said select mixtures of cannabinoids could help minimize undesirable effects of cannabis, such as the psychoactivity of THC. Research published earlier this year in the journal Pain, for example, found that marijuana was comparatively more effective than prescription medications for treating chronic pain after a 3-month period, and that many patients reduced their use of opioid painkillers while using cannabis. A separate federally funded study found that legalization of marijuana in the U.S. is associated with reduced prescriptions for opioid pain medications among commercially insured adults, indicating a possible substitution effect where patients are choosing to use cannabis instead of prescription drugs to treat pain. Separate research published found that more than half of patients with chronic musculoskeletal pain said cannabis was more effective than other analgesic medications, while 40% reported reducing their use of other painkillers since they began using marijuana. So let's let the athletes heal naturally and let them have their weed.
Yeah. Need to let those athletes have their weed.
Yeah, totally.
It's so, I mean, just in there, just saying what it said. I mean, it's just opioids, weed. Opioids, weed.
Yeah.
You know how many athletes have gotten fucked so bad on opioids? It's not even funny. You know, it's terrible.
They're just unhealthy.
Yep.
They're terrible for your body.
Yep. Weigh you down and break you down faster than the injury. Oh, we're smoking again?
We're smoking again.
Nice. While you're lighting that up, I'll go through the political state and business news.
All right.
IDOA announces metric implementation timeline. The Illinois Department of Agriculture and the Division of Cannabis Regulation announced today an official metric implementation timeline for licensed cannabis businesses transitioning from BioTrack to metric as Illinois' track and trace data system. The implementation will start with transporter licenses, registered testing laboratories, followed by cultivation centers, craft growers, and infusers, and with dispensaries transitioning last. According to the press release, the phased approach ensures a smooth and efficient migration across the supply chain and minimal disruption in the cannabis medical patients and consumers. To move items into metric, plants and packages will need metric RFID tags. Additional information will be available soon about the ordering process for those tags. Through state funding, cannabis businesses established will not be charged for metrics RFID tags, subject to certain restrictions. I mean, I've dealt with BioTrack here in Illinois for a very long time. Metric is, everyone likes metric better. They both kind of suck, but I mean, it is what it is. You gotta have one. So
everybody has to use the same platform.
Mm-hmm. It's because it's filed through the state. So yeah, everybody has to use it, and it sucks. But I mean, you need a track and trace system, I guess, so the government can fucking figure out what you're selling and how much you got. You know,
And keep tabs.
Mm-hmm. It's really good weed.
They want their monies.
Yep.
Give me my money.
Came through in the clutch though with your eyeglass cleaner, right?
Yeah, thanks.
Here in Illinois, also Dispensary 33, a local dispensary along with Sparked, another local dispensary, same owners, to be the first employee-owned dispensaries in Illinois.
I heard that.
ESOP, employee-owned company. It's great. That first medical cannabis dispensary is open to Chicago Dispensary 33 is now part of 6 retail stores in Illinois to become the first employee-owned dispensaries, along with the 2 Dispensary 33 and 4 Spark dispensaries combined into one holding company. And Thursday, Illinois approved the sale of the companies to a trust owned by dispensary employees. The Chicago Sun-Times reported the trust purpose was fund an employee stock ownership plan, an ESOP, in order to purchase the company as stock and give ownership to the employees. An employee stock ownership plan and retirement plan where the company contributes its stock to a trust, which then holds the stock for the benefit of its employees, allowing them to gain ownership in the company and potentially to grow long-term wealth. Hell yeah. The 6 dispensaries include Dispensary 33 Andersonville, West Loop, and all the Spark dispensaries, Richmond, Winthrop, Harbor, Wicker Park, and South Wabash Avenue in Chicago. The 6 retail stores combined for around 200 employees. Good for them. God, I'd love to see that.
I think that's cool.
Yeah, I think it's amazing. Wyoming pays $150,000 to settle a lawsuit over botched persecution of hemp farmers. In March 2025, the state of Wyoming agreed to pay $150,000 to settle a lawsuit filed by Deborah Palm Elge, a hemp farmer whose crop was wrongly seized in 2019. In November 2019, law enforcement agents raided Palm Elge's farm near Albin, Wyoming, based on tip alleging she cultivating marijuana. The agents seized 700 pounds of plants that were later determined to contain THC levels complement with federal hemp standards. Despite this, the Palm Edge faced serious drug trafficking charges, including conspiracy to manufacture, deliver, and possess marijuana, and possessors with intent to deliver marijuana, all felonies. These charges were eventually dismissed in 2021. And Elge filed the suit in May of 2022, leading to the recent settlement. She expressed hope that the settlement would encourage law enforcement to exercise greater caution in the future involving hemp cultivation. Palm Elge also noted plans to use part of the settlement to remodel her barn, a project she had postponed due to legal expenses. This settlement concludes a prolonged legal battle of highlighted challenges and distinguish between hemp and marijuana, especially considering their legal status and THC content. 2 months into new Congress, bipartisan marijuana leaders have yet to meet. A psychedelics caucus sees momentum. As of 2025, 2 months into the new Congress, leaders of the bipartisan marijuana reform caucus have not convened any meetings. None. Once again, we are getting shit on. This lack of activity contrasts with growing momentum in psychedelics reform, where legislative discussions are advancing. Representative Bergman expressed optimism about the progress in psychedelic policy, stating the momentum is there. And of course, cannabis gets shit on once again. Know what did I say a long time ago? If psychedelics gets passed before marijuana, how pissed off am I going to be? I mean, don't get me wrong. I like psychedelics. They have their place. But cannabis has been around, and people use cannabis every day, and we just get shit on over and over and over. But I'm going to read some more articles later on, too, about this shit. Former New Jersey senator running for governor says it's time to let medical marijuana patients grow their own plants. Good for you. Steve Sweeney, the longest-serving Senate president in New Jersey's history and now governor candidate, advocates for allowing medical marijuana patients to cultivate their own cannabis plants. He highlights his involvement in advancing cannabis legalization from medical use to adult recreational use, and mentions efforts like eliminating the medical cannabis tax to reduce costs for patients. This stance aligns with bipartisan legislative efforts that have previously stalled in the state legislature. Despite the legalization of recreational cannabis in 2022, home cultivation remains illegal, with growing support for lawmakers and activists to change the policy. Currently, New Jersey's law prohibits private cultivation of cannabis, limiting growth to licensed businesses. Couple 2-tree plants. Come on, Jersey. Hawaii lawmakers vote to let doctors recommend medical marijuana for any condition they deem appropriate. Yay, good for you, Hawaii. Bill to make Delta 8 as illegal as heroin fails in Alabama Senate. Lawmakers consider new version. Good for you, Alabama. Delta 8 is not as bad as heroin.
It is not.
Let's just put it that way.
That's true.
Majority of Utahns, Johnny Utah, support legalized recreational marijuana, new polling shows. A new poll shows a majority of Utahns would support changing Utah law to legalize recreational marijuana, but a top state GOP lawmaker says it's not going to happen. According to recent data shared on ABC4.com, 52% of Utah's folks would support the legalization of recreational marijuana, while 38% don't support it, and 9% weren't sure. What's there not to be sure of? New York officials must not let police use marijuana odor to harass drivers, coalition of advocacy group says. The coalition of 60 drug policy reform, civil rights, and community organizations is calling for New York policymakers to block an attempt to make the odor of marijuana a pretext for police to force motorists to take a drug test. And it's also pushing for policies like prioritize harm reduction, including expanding access to safe consumption sites for illegal substances. Massachusetts bill could end pre-employment marijuana testing. Good for you, Mass. Let it go, let it go, let's go. AAA survey reveals nearly half of Michigan cannabis users believe it doesn't affect their driving skills. nearly half. Pretty good. AAA survey reveals concerning perception among Michigan cannabis users regarding driving under the influence. Nearly 47% believe marijuana doesn't affect their driving abilities, while 34% think it actually enhances their driving. Additionally, 85% reported driving at the same day they consumed cannabis, and 53% do so within an hour of use. These findings highlight the need for increased awareness about the risk of cannabis-impaired driving. Or not. Montana GOP advances bill to redirect marijuana tax revenue. Montana's GOP is advancing a bill to redirect marijuana tax revenue currently allocated to behavioral health services and substance use treatment to other areas. This purpose has raised concerns among conservation groups who fear potential reduction in funding for land, wildlife, and trails and parks. They argue that relocating these funds could negatively impact conservation efforts, emphasizing the importance of maintaining the existing distribution to support Montana's natural resources. Don't fuck it up, Montana. California Supreme Court rules federal prohibition doesn't block marijuana businesses from transporting products. The California Supreme Court ruled that federal marijuana prohibition does not prevent state licensed cannabis businesses from transporting products. This decision overturns a previous appellate ruling that had questioned the legality of such transportation due to federal laws. The court action ensures that continued operation of California's legal cannabis industry without federal interference in product distribution. Wait till I get to another article later, California. You're not going to be happy about this. Massachusetts cannabis prices just keep falling. Isn't there an end in sight? Massachusetts cannabis prices have fallen significantly since legalization, with an eighth of an ounce dropping from $50 in nearly 2021. That sounds like Illinois prices, to approximately now $15 today. That's definitely not Illinois prices. This decline is attributed to market oversaturation as the Cannabis Control Commission approved 1,465 licenses by February 14, 2025. You don't have the population that smokes enough cannabis for 1,465 licenses. Same thing like here in Illinois. You know, you're just trying to get them open, but there's not enough people that smoke, you know.
Right.
So this is leading to competition, lower prices. However, the trend poses challenges for dispensaries struggling with reduced margins. It's all about them profits and margins, everybody. Maine lawmakers consider bill to making banking easier for the cannabis industry. Maine lawmakers are considering a bill to facilitate banking for the state's cannabis industry, which currently faces challenges due to federal prohibition. To propose legislation, LD 859 directs the Treasury of State to explore options for meeting the banking needs of cannabis businesses. The initiative aims to address the industry's limited access to financial services such as loans and secure banking by studying potential state-level solutions. Good for you, Maine. Arizona Attorney General warns retailers THC-infused products are only legal at dispensaries. The Arizona Dispensary Association is alerting businesses and consumers to notice from the Arizona Attorney General's office, reinforcing that only legal place to produce, sell, and distribute THC, and thus for consumers to purchase THC products in the state, is through licensed dispensaries. And I think I read an article today that now they're saying that all hemp products with THC in it have to be sold at a dispensary.
Whoa.
Shoot, that's going to be tough.
Whoa.
No one. Why does a dispensary want to buy that? They're
Right.
not going to need it, you know. So it's going to totally ruin the industry there, the hemp industry there.
Yeah.
So, pot for potholes. Lawmakers propose bold plan to fix Tennessee roads. A Tennessee bill known as Pot for Potholes Act aims to address road repairs by legalizing recreational marijuana. Revenue from 15% tax on cannabis would fund roads and bridge repairs. 75% of that. Why do you need 75% of that to go to fixing? Right. I mean, there's other taxes you do, but how about like 25%? And then put the rest where it needs to go, you know? And locally government services. So it's going to go to the police and all that kind of shit like here in Illinois. While supporters like Senator Heidi Campbell argue it's a practical solution, critics, including Republican leaders, oppose it, calling it a publicity stunt. The bill is set for a subcommittee hearing. New York governor signs bill to expand state's marijuana farmers market program with pop-up events. Good for you, governor. Iced tea. Yeah, colors. I am a nightmare walking, psychopath talking, king of the jungle, just a gangster walking. I'm a huge Ice T fan. I've been watching him since Breaking One back in 1982. That's how long I've been listening to Ice T. And then, oh man. And then he came out with Body Count, which I saw at the first Lollapalooza. And that was that was the first one. It was great. And he did Body Count, and the fucking crowd erupted. And I remember first time hearing that song. Oh my gosh, he's just I love Ice-T. Great career in movies too. But I'm happy that he's got a cannabis dispensary. Ice-T is launching a cannabis dispensary called the Medicine Woman in Jersey City, New Jersey, the place I was born. The soft opening is set for March 27th with a grand opening of April 19th through the 20th. Ice-T, partnering with cannabis entrepreneur Chris Burrett, aims to offer premium experiences with products from top local brands. The dispensary also focuses on hiring locally and supporting organizations like the Last Prisoner Project while aiming to uplift the community. Two new things that I added just like happened today. I usually do this episode on Monday. We're actually recording on Wednesday today because I missed Tuesday. Sorry, everybody. So these two came out today and I couldn't miss them because these are fucking huge. The feds say, now I said this a long time ago. The feds say marijuana can be summarily. Did I say that right?
Similarly?
No, this is SUMMARILY.
Yeah.
Right? I said it right. Summarily seized from legal businesses, but not if it's rescheduled. Remember I told you they can come in anytime they want and shut shit down?
Yes.
I've said it. So going back to a couple articles ago when I said about the states and stuff like that, listen, California, the federal government come in and shut this shit down anytime they want because it is federally illegal Schedule 1. Hence all the assholes that did that to us, right? So the feds say, federal agencies argue, they can seize cannabis from state legal businesses because it remains a Schedule 1 drug under federal law. I said this too on our episode, our 420
FBI
episode.
Could just
Then come
harass
in, yeah,
a
the
dispensary.
CIA, anybody come in, the DEA, come in, especially the DEA. Come in.
Well, yeah.
Drug Enforcement Administration can come in. Agency can come in anytime and shut shit down.
Are they part of the governing power?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they come in anytime. So, however, if marijuana is rescheduled to Schedule 3 or lower, stricter procedures would be required for asset forfeiture, giving businesses more legal rights to contest seizures. The case arose from New Mexico businesses challenging the seizure of cannabis products, but the court filing highlights the impact federal rescheduling could have on future enforcement. I said this last year on the 420 show. I said it when we did.
I think I remember.
I said it. I said, this is still federally legal. They can come and shut this shit down anytime they want. And the states would have to apply because they would lose federal funding.
Well,
because you're doing something federally. The state is now allowing it, right?
Yeah.
So I have said this until we get this descheduled, off the schedule, period, and treat it like cigarettes and alcohol, we're good.
Yeah.
Here's another one that's a ass kicker. And I said it that he was going to do it, and he did. Virginia governor vetoes recreational cannabis sales bill. Now, they're medical there, and they've been trying to they had a bill going, and it passed recreational, but he didn't sign it. And he didn't sign anything into like any of the laws or anything like that. So it passed recreational, but he didn't do anything to move it forward. He's not signing anything to make it move forward. So the Virginia governor again, Glenn Youngkin, vetoed a bill that would have legalized recreational cannabis sales in the state. Youngkin cited concerns over public health and safety as reasons for the veto. It's already been proven that there is no health and safety issues.
Right.
Children, they're showing that kids are using it less in high school because they can it's legal and it's like not a thing anymore, Decision aligns with the previous stance. In March 2024, he vetoed a similar bill, expressing that it endangers Virginians' health and safety, despite Democratic efforts to legalize recreational sales. So it is recreational in Virginia.
Right.
There's just no recreational sales because he hasn't signed the law to let it go. So included proposed legalization in 2025. Youngkin's opposition continues to hinder progress. Also, the Virginia governor, Youngkin, also rejected bills to provide resentencing relief for people still incarcerated for cannabis and to protect parental rights of marijuana consumers.
Wow.
Youngkin, you are just not a good person.
Wow.
Not a good person. Did you ever get an edible arrangement from anybody?
I don't think
I've sent one time. I think we sent one, or I got one.
I've
Or
had
I
one
think
at work.
when I worked
Yeah.
when I worked at for the brewery, I sent one to a distributor or
Yeah.
somebody's birthday or something like that. And it was an edit. We all sent one. It was kind of funny. We thought it was funny as hell. And I've seen them.
They
They're great.
look- yeah.
Right. So what are they doing? What are they
This is-
doing?
this is
Tell us
pretty-
about it,
this is
Mrs.
cool.
Weedman.
So they are entering a new industry with a hemp delivery service. So the company behind Edible Arrangements is entering the cannabis market, launching a new delivery service for hemp products. Edible Brands, best known for its line of ornate fruit arrangements, announced Thursday that it is expanding to start selling different kinds of edibles, hemp gummies, drinks, and supplements. The products can be purchased for delivery from a new site, edibles.com. Edible Brands' wellness-driven approach aligns with their evolving future of this category. Thomas Winstanley, the executive vice president of edibles.com, said in a press release, "With our robust infrastructure and nationwide footprint, we are uniquely positioned to accelerate industry growth. Joining an organization that prioritizes consumers, advocacy, and innovation allows us to strengthen and shape this emerging market," he said. That emerging market, which proliferated after hemp was federally legalized under the 2018 Farm Bill, has been facing challenges in recent years as more states and Congress have pushed to rein in business selling intoxicating cannabinoid products. Edibles.com is currently servicing California, where the governor recently signed an emergency order banning hemp-derived products containing any traces of THC. However, the company didn't reference the policy and simply said it was unable to offer our products to California residents at this time. But stay tuned as we expand. It is launching hemp deliveries in Texas, though, but that would likely be complicated if a bill that passed the state Senate on Wednesday is ultimately enacted into law, similarly prohibiting any consumable hemp products that don't exclusively contain non-intoxicating CBD or CBG. It's relatively rare to find cannabis products with no THC at all, and federal law provides that hemp is legal as long as it contains no more than 0.3% THC by dry weight. In any case, Edible Brands evidently sees an opportunity even amidst the shifting policy landscape. And after Texas, it is going to be expanding to serve consumers in Florida and Georgia. The hemp industry is evolving rapidly, but consumers still face challenges with perception, education, and accessibility. Samie Silber, CEO of Edible Brands, said, "We're making it easier than ever for consumers to access premium, vetted products with the convenience they expect today." Jake Bullock, CEO of the cannabis drink company Can, which is part of Edible.com's product offerings, called this marketing development a defining moment for the hemp industry. A high-quality marketplace like Edibles.com has the power to reshape the future of THC products and drive the long-term industry growth we've all been working toward, he said. The company also said it's preparing to disrupt the brick-and-mortar retail sector by launching a limited franchising program that will start with a flagship store in Atlanta. Their announcement comes about 2 months after the delivery service DoorDash announced that it was expanding its offerings in select states to include hemp-derived THC and CBD products, including gummies and beverages. So they piggybacked off to, hey.
That's pretty smart.
Yeah, why not? You've got, like they said, they've got the distribution.
I want one
already
for my
in place.
party.
Yeah?
Their party.
What do you want?
I want one. I want you to make one for the party.
Oh, you want the edible arrangement.
Yeah.
You're baked.
I am baked. International news. France makes key move towards legalizing medical cannabis. France has taken a significant step towards legalizing medical cannabis by formally notifying the European Commission of its production and authorization regulations. This follows a successful 3-year trial involving 3,000 patients with conditions like epilepsy and neuropathic pain. The new regulations aim at providing regulated access to medical cannabis, with the trial extended through March 26 to ensure continue for patients. Pretty sweet. International Cannabis Business Conference returns to Berlin in April 2025. The International Cannabis Business Conference will return to Berlin at the Estrella Berlin Hotel. The event will feature an expo, conference, and networking opportunities for cannabis business leaders, entrepreneurs, and policymakers. With Germany's leading European cannabis revolution, the event aims to highlight opportunities in medical, recreational, and ancillary cannabis sectors. Over 5,000 industry professionals from 80 countries are expected. Last year, didn't they have like 50,000 people show up and they had to shut it down? Yeah. Isn't that crazy? This marks a significant milestone for Germany's rapidly growing cannabis industry. Moldova grants first authorizations for hemp cultivation ushering in a new era. Moldova has granted the first authorization for industry hemp cultivation, making a majority shift for agricultural policy. The new law allows for the production of hemp fiber and seeds while excluding CBD and hemp flowers, which remains tightly regulated. This move aims to boost the economy, enhance sustainable agriculture, and create new jobs. Moldova's historical connection to hemp, combined with its short growth cycle and environmental benefits, position the crop as a key part of the country's agricultural future. King Charles turns to cannabis to try to gain a few more months to live. King Charles, struggling with cancer, has reportedly turned to medical cannabis to ease the pain, in line with the history of exploring alternative therapies. A palace source shared that Charles, seeking experimental treatments, has also embraced cannabis after reviewing studies on the potential benefits. His recent playlist, though, features Bob Marley, aligning with his interest in the plant. The monarch aims to survive until his 77th birthday, despite his ongoing battle with cancer. Well, at least he's using the plant. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Country music.
Yeah.
Is there a connection with cannabis and country music?
There is.
There is?
Yeah.
Well, we know one.
Well, it has always been popular. In the last few years, it has had an explosion of fans. In the U.S. alone, over 139 million listen to country music. And not just old tunes from Barbara Mandrell, Dolly Parton, or Randy Travis. While drinking is big on the scene, what about their connection between country music and cannabis? Well, country music and cannabis share a fascinating and evolving relationship, reflecting broader cultural shifts. While historically the genre leaned toward conservative values, recent years have seen a growing acceptance of marijuana within country music, both in lyrics and among its artists. In the past, country music often distanced itself from marijuana, aligning with socially conservative values. A prime example is Merle Haggard's 1969 hit, Okie from Muskogee, which explicitly rejected marijuana use and symbolized traditional American values. Despite this, outlaw country artists like Willie Nelson, Hank Williams Jr., and Johnny Cash embraced cannabis as part of their rebellious personas. Willie Nelson, in particular, became synonymous with marijuana culture, famously smoking on the White House roof during Jimmy Carter's presidency. Over the past decade, mentions of marijuana in country music have increased significantly. Artists like Casey Musgraves, Chris Stapleton, and Eric Church have incorporated cannabis themes into their songs, often celebrating its uses casually or humorously. Songs such as Burn One with John Prine by Casey Musgraves and Might As Well Get Stoned by Chris Stapleton highlight this shift toward normalization. Interestingly, studies show that country music mentions drugs more frequently than any other genre, including rap. And marijuana reference now outpaces those of harder substances like cocaine or alcohol in some cases. Cannabis has become a symbol of individualism and freedom within the genre. This aligns with country music's tradition of storytelling about personal struggles and breaking societal norms. The changing legal and public landscape of marijuana in the U.S. has influenced this shift, making cannabis a more socially acceptable topic for mainstream audiences.
Country music.
Country music. Take me home. Give me a joint.
As soon as we're done. RVD. RVD. Rob Van Dam, who was a wrestler for a very long time, accuses WWE of basing past marijuana ban on misinformation. Rob Van Dam, RVD, has accused WWE of basing its previous marijuana ban on misinformation. He suggests that the policy was influenced by misconceptions rather than factual information. RVD comments highlights concerns about the accuracy of the company's past policies. Yeah, when we read somebody else too talk about when it was banned too, so kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Mrs. Weedman.
Mr. Weedman.
That's the end of the show.
That's it, huh?
Yeah. You got anything else to say?
Well, everybody, get yourself some good weed. Try some hash. Try some BHO resin.
Resin.
I'll get it straight someday.
Resin. BHO resin.
Tell us what you think.
That's it.
What's your preference? I don't know. We all have different taste buds. We all have different expectations. We all have different likes and dislikes. So, you know, just like the cereal aisle. You've got favorites, right?
You got favorites.
Go with them.
Wise words from Mrs. Weedman.
Yeah, I'm just baked.
Pretty good, though. Go down the cereal aisle. Got choices. Got options. Like Stockton.
Take your pick.
You know?
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to thank Redemption Botanicals for throwing to the cause today, and everybody who gave us weed. Who gave it? Yeah, I'm pretty baked. Who gave us weed for the next couple of weeks to smoke on the show? We appreciate you. We'll throw you all shouts outs again, and I want to thank Kai Brady again and Flower Expo for having us. It was a lot of fun. Good to see all the fam and the community and people in the industry. As always, we thank you for the support and showing us love and giving us stuff to smoke on the show. We love you, and everybody out there, smoke really good weed. You want to know why? Because cheap weed ain't good, and good weed ain't cheap.
That's right.
As Paulie always says, smoke smart. Puff, puff, and away.
Puff, puff, pass.
Check out our cannabis lifestyle brand online at 8decades.com. Our custom smokes and accessories are perfect for your coffee table, bedroom nightstand, or kitchen counter. They're designed for you to show them off. The Canna community is also loving our hemp and cotton blend t-shirts, sweatshirts, scarves, and hats, finished off with our 8 Decades logo. We've got some awesome, long-lasting goods that will be your favorite for years to come. 8 Decades, because a 9th decade of cannabis prohibition isn't acceptable.